We going?
Yep.
We're live.
Yes,
It's
we
not
are.
going to be live for you guys listening, but it's live for us right now. This is the Fourth Wall, or just Fourth Wall podcast, where we break the fourth wall in reality. I'm here with my friend Zootenheimer, also known as Zoot. He's up in the hinterlands of Wisconsin.
Yes.
I'm here.
Otherwise known as the 48 out of 50 of the drunkest counties in the United States. Nothing else to do up here but get intoxicated. And it's actually 90 degrees right now, which is surprising. It's like,
Holy shit! In
yeah,
Wisconsin, I would
not
have
to be a
expected that.
boomer and talk about the weather, but it is
Yeah,
notable.
yeah. My girlfriend's dad he's from Detroit, Michigan, but he lived in Wisconsin for a while, and some of his family's up there. And yeah, drinking is like a part of the culture up there.
Oh, big
It's
time.
just
Yeah, it's a
like,
lot of Germanic peoples. So that's like a big reason why
so,
that's so integral.
no. All right, well, let's get into it, dude. I wanted to. So we are both people. For those listening, we are people in recovery from. What would you say, polysubstance abuse for yourself as well? Or
Kind
primarily,
of, yeah, but my primary was opioids. That was like the big that was my problem. That's that's what became an issue.
feel that. My whole thing is mixing drugs for the most part, benzos, stimulants, alcohol, opiates. What can you enlighten me? What's the opioid, opiate? When is the correct usage of either? Is it the
Um
opioid
yeah,
drugs and
so I
opioid?
can give you like an exact definition. Um there are I think there's a big difference between like natural compounds or anything derived directly from opium poppy plants, while opioids are like
Yes.
much broader, includes natural and opiates and synthetic or semi-synthetic. So that's
Okay.
that you might have noticed there was a kind of a shift, and people used to call it opiate addiction, and now they say opioid, and that was a once kind of the big oxycontin oxycodone phase happened, and then now into fentanyl. That's when they transitioned to calling it opioid, I guess, addiction. So
Yeah, dude. So I got into the game. I'm 27. I got into the game like after OC's OxyContin had been banned pretty much. We were still in an opioid epidemic, and we still are with the fentanyl crisis, I guess. But I just remember starting to go to rehabs when I was like 19, and hearing everybody just like verbally jerking off over the OC 80s and the OC eras. And I remember saying something about OC 80s one time from all the stuff I had read on Arrowhead and Reddit. And then this dude who was about 10 years older than me snapped and looked at me and was like, "What you know about OC 80s, son? That was before your time." And I was like, "Yeah, you're right. I've heard you had to like suck the coating off." So my understanding is it uh, like I've done Percocet, I've done hydrocodone, I've done Roxy's. I never got my hands on Dilaudid, hydromorphone, or Opana, oxymorphone. I've heard those are like next level. But OxyContin, right? Compare it, describe it to me compared to like Percocet or Roxy's.
well,
Is it because it's
Percocet
still
is oxycodone. It's the same thing as same thing. So, if you've hydrocodone and oxycodone are basically exactly the same thing, except oxy is 1.5 times stronger per milligram. So a
Mhm.
10 milligram oxycodone is a 15 milligram hydrocodone. Same exact
So
effect. Um, OxyContin, they called it Contin for continual use because it had a jelly wax type coating around the outside of the pill that would cause it to dissolve slower, and then thus you would get the longer release effects. What people learned very quickly is that you could just really easily suck or get, you could use a wet paper towel, or you'd see a lot of times addicts would have the green all over their t-shirt because they would suck on the pill, spit it out, and rub it in their t-shirt, so that you could tell really quickly if someone was in the game if they had green stains along the
interesting.
bottom of their shirt. Um,
Like
but
a heroin addict with sig holes in their hoodies or their shirts or whatever.
Yeah,
The addicts
dude.
from the group. Interesting.
Yeah, so but then you also brought up the Opanism, and that was a response to the opioid crisis that happened in the late 2000s. And that's when I believe what they did there was kind of similar to how morphine pills have like a waxy mixture mixed in with the pill filler, so that you couldn't like shoot it up, because people were like shooting oxys for a while too. And so I think what a lot of people would do was like you could do some weird shit where you would like freeze the pill and then shave it with like a cheese grater, or like people would get those petty treatment things that you would shave your dead skin on your
Yeah,
foot off with, and they would
yeah,
like shave the pill down. um
and
but yeah, you know, there's always those weird people find a way, man. And then it becomes a part of their ritual that you look forward to, right? Is like, I'm getting my stuff ready. I'm almost more addicted to that than the whole like thing of like, you know.
100%, dude. One of my recent rehab buddies was just telling me about, he's primarily an alcoholic these days, but he was telling me about, and he came up, I think, after the OC era as well. But shooting rock was his big thing, and his part of his ritual was like he took pride in being a clean junkie, right? Never use the same needle twice, always clean cotton, clean needles, all this. But he had this metal Altoids container that had like a hidden compartment in it you could take out like a tray, and he had all his stuff lined up, right? And he always used Fiji water from the fucking water bottle. The
Yeah,
ritual
that's kind
is,
of like the Roto version of like the stoner. Like everyone liked the Roto eye drops.
yeah,
You had to use your.
yeah.
And it's funny though, because I guarantee you, the longer that guy went on, he would eventually would have fucking used a Speedway toilet water to shoot up. After a while, you
I
don't
was
give a
just about to
fuck.
say, one of my buddies, I won't name him here, but he's been sober off of everything, bone sober, stone cold sober for, geez, it's got to be close to 10 years now. I want to say maybe 8 or 9 years. But this dude, like, man, let's say a little bit about him because it's an interesting story. He grew up like straight edge, like both parents were doctors, like private school, like all that stuff. And then when he was 18, he smoked weed for the first time. And I want to say within like a couple months, maybe even a couple weeks after smoking weed for the first time, he was doing everything, bro. He was like, well, this is awesome. What else did they lie to me
What
about?
else did they lie about? The very classic dare side, the side effect of going through dare
Yeah,
education.
exactly, dude. He smoked PCP, got into meth, crack. Heroin was the love of his life, though, and shooting up in general. He
I
shot
vibe with that.
Benadryl, he shot caffeine. But yeah, he would shoot up with McDonald's toilet water on more than one occasion. And I was always like, why wouldn't you just go to the McDonald's sink? And he was like, bro, I didn't want, and this shows you how fucked up an addict's brain is. He was like, bro, I didn't want someone to walk in and find my shit all cooked up on the top of the toilet and steal it for themselves. I'm like, yeah, dude, because the average McDonald's patron is gonna see some drug,
Yeah.
concoction in a toilet stall and be like, oh, dude, fuck yeah, more for me.
Yeah, that's better than a
But
Big Mac,
anyway,
bro.
yeah, so like he would shoot up McDonald's toilet water.
Oh
But
man, I
one time
couldn't
I met,
tell you the places like the weird bathrooms I've done that in. Starbucks. It's funny. Like I would go in my most recent, foray. I have a pretty decent software engineering job, and I very fortunately
yeah,
like never lost my gig while I during my relapse or whatever. But um, I would work remotely, and I would like go to pick up in the hood where my guy was, but just in time for my morning meeting at like 10 a.m. so that I'm on my way back. I knew there was a Starbucks in between, halfway between where he was and where my house was. So I could go in the morning, go get to that stop and go on the Wi-Fi at the Starbucks, shoot up in the bathroom, get on my online, the things we do, man, the things we do. I'm so glad I'm back out of that. I was on methadone for 12 years and, you know they don't really ever have a very like solid plan for you to get on that stuff and get stable and get off of it unless you enforce it yourself and like make that plan for yourself. You'll just be on it forever, and that's what kind of happened to me. I got stuck in it, and I kind of rested
if you
on
methadone,
the what's that.
said you're damned if you methadone, damned if you methadone.
Yeah, that's a good one. I haven't heard the methadone. So I was like fixing my life and everything felt great and I was healthy and I had relationships again and I was getting my degrees and stuff. And so I didn't really want to rock the boat. And in that, I kind of rested on that fact. And then all of a sudden the years go by and you realize, holy shit, I've been on this stuff for 10 years. And that's kind of what happened to me. So what I ended up doing was what's called a rapid detox, which is a really fascinating treatment that they do, where they put you under sedation and then like basically Narcan flush you for like an hour and a half so that it like completely strips your receptors off of any like lingering like molecules and or neurotransmitters, and and then they give you the next day they give you a Vivitrol shot like right after that, and then they give you a IV ketamine treatment the following day that kind of is supposed to like psychologically enforce the changes in your brain chemistry, which we can get into some John C. Lilly connections because he has some really fascinating stuff about kind of reprogramming the human brain under states of sedation and hypnosis. But I digress. That worked great, and I was off it for 3 years. And I think I, didn't follow up with the, keeping my treatment in the forefront of my life and my mindset. And then I had a relapse about a year ago, and now I'm back on methadone, and I'm going to get off it as fast as I can. So that's kind of, my experience with it. And I heard that,
Oh yeah,
you got on it.
questions. I got some questions regarding all that. So, uh, what type of sedation are we talking? Like propofol, like anesthesia,
It's not
or
general anesthesia. I know that for sure. It's like a much
you
safer.
unconscious?
I could tell you rapid detox.
Were you like totally out, like
Oh yeah,
unconscious for
they
like a day?
have a
I was about
whole
to say, you guys
anesthetist, like
very sick.
full nursing staff. You're out. Yeah.
Okay. For like
And
a
the
full 4 hours.
so dude, and here's the crazy part is, when I was walking home to the airport, like down the concourse, I'm looking around and I'm like, is there like a twin convention this in the city that I'm like, well, I keep seeing twins everywhere. Like, and I'm like, I've never seen this many twins in my life. And all of a sudden I like start blinking and I realize I'm just seeing double. It was leftover effects
Okay.
of the sedation.
That's hilarious. Holy shit.
And then I shit my pants in the airport because they make you go on a water diet before it. And so I'm like
No.
in the bathroom at the airport, like I had an extra pair of sweatpants, and I'm like, I just like threw my other ones away, and I like put new sweatpants on, and I'm like running down the concourse, like half sedated still to get to the airplane, and it was bizarre, but it worked phenomenally. I
Oh,
almost,
yeah.
I have these like deer antlers on my wall, and I was still for like 2 days after that kind of wobbly on my feet, like trying to like, and I woke up in the middle of the night one day and I fell and I like landed right here on the deer antler. I almost poked my whole fucking eye out. But the sedation was like lasted for 2 days afterwards. It was really crazy.
Do you think were there benzos involved in the sedation, or
Had to
is just
be.
some sort of had to be okay? Interesting. So let me run through this then. So it's some sort of not general anesthesia, but some sort of cocktail of of some type of anesthesia or anesthetics to some extent, if you can call it that, or just sedatives is a better way to put it. You're unconscious for what, 24 hours and a whole day, or
No,
12
it's
hours?
only a few hours, but I
2 hours.
definitely woke up out of the sedation probably like 4 to 6 hours after, I would say, but I was still really fucked up. Like, didn't know where I was, tried pulling my IV out, tried getting up out of the bed to go to the bathroom. They have to like monitor, they have someone in the doorway making sure you don't leave because you're like, um, you're definitely out. Like,
Are they,
fuck.
are they flushing your system? There's multiple ways, and as you probably know, there's multiple ways to flush someone's system to knock all the opioids out. I would say, naloxone is one, Narcan's one. It's not as long acting as a lot of the other ones, though, because if it doesn't get all of them, I can reverse an overdose. But you've seen a thing where people will get hit with Narcan and then start overdosing again when the Narcan wears off. So there's still some opioids lingering around up there. Um, I can see why they do the Vivitrol a day later because naltrexone, that's also an opioid blocker. That will knock, all the opioids off your receptors and like block any lingering ones, I guess, from reattaching. That might be why they do it because maybe they do something to knock the opioids off, and then naltrexone occupies those receptors and blocks them, so any lingering opioids can't attach. But was it buprenorphine they used to knock everything off while you were under?
I'm
Because
pretty
from
sure.
my
I'm pretty sure it's
yeah,
IV
that's
bup.
what I've heard.
Hmm. Yeah,
Now, for those that know, sorry, I'm like chewing on my lips and like picking the skin out. It's kind of nasty. Those that don't know that are listening, buprenorphine, that is an opioid. It's a partial agonist. I think it primarily hits the kappa opioid receptors. It doesn't produce that much of a high. If you're to those that are opioid dependent, if you're opioid naive with no tolerance, buprenorphine is one of the strongest opioids. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's 20 to 50 times more potent than morphine with quite a long half life. The interesting thing about buprenorphine is it has the highest binding affinity of pretty much any opioid known to man. So He's like, and so people may be asking, well, what? They gave him an opioid to help him get off opioids? Well, yes, it's a partial agonist.
Hmm.
So when he let's say, was it fentanyl that you were primarily coming off of? Your receptors are loaded
Well,
up.
no, I was getting off the methadone. Yeah.
Oh, you're off the methadone at that point in time. Okay,
Yeah,
interesting, interesting.
170 milligrams, jumped right off the cliff
Oh,
off of that. And
wow.
no, and then they give you Vivitrol for like follow up, and yeah, no, zero post acute withdrawals or anything. Like, well, no, I'm sorry, zero acute withdrawals, very tinily minimum post acute withdrawal symptoms, like
That's
not even
phenomenal.
noticeable. It's truly miraculous. I wish everyone could have access to it. I think it was
Yeah,
like eight
that's a
thousand dollars though. There's no insurance. Insurance, of course, in the United States doesn't want to cover that. It's even though like if you think about how much methadone that the insurance is covering, that thousands of dollars a year, they could just get everyone off the fucking opioids this way. But it takes a whole team of people to keep someone sedated, how like safely that way. So it's costly, and there's very few clinics that are like that do this treatment.
the
Sorry,
the
go ahead.
buprenorphine. Oh, you're all good. You're all good. I just want to explain it for those that may be wondering. Like the buprenorphine, it binds, it has such a high binding affinity. It goes and knocks any other binded or bonded opioids in your brain off. And
Hmm.
then since it's one dose of buprenorphine, or maybe it's a couple doses throughout the session, I'm not sure. Do you know? I think one dose would do it probably. One high dose.
I think it's a long IV constant like drip stream or something like that. That they keep
That
you
one dose of
sedated for a few hours while it's happening.
very nice. So yeah, that one dose of bupe, whether it's the drip, even if it's a drip feed of buprenorphine, bupe for short, that's not going to cause any like long term withdrawals. Basically, it's just going to knock everything else off your system. The Vivitrol also will knock anything residual that's on there and block it up. And Vivitrol is a month long lasting shot. That's probably why there was a lot of limited post acute
And
withdrawal,
then
in
I
my
didn't even
opinion.
get any Vivitrol after that. I just did the first month, and then
Oh,
I just, which I probably should have, but
awesome.
I felt great, and I was like, I don't have any withdrawal symptoms. Now, did that contribute down the road, perhaps 3 years later, to what I went? Maybe. Hard to say, but I think it was, in my mind, I think it was more the lack of a therapeutic follow up. I don't think it was the medication treatment that I went through that caused it. I think if I had been, probably not out drinking and partying and, not going to meetings, that I don't think I would have, went through my
Wow.
relapse.
Meetings. We'll get into that in a minute because I got a lot of feelings, opinions, and experience with various types of support and recovery meetings. But
I agree.
yeah, the same method of action as to why the buprenorphine worked there for this type of detox is also the same reason why people can get really bad precipitated withdrawal if you take a Suboxone strip too early coming off of dependence to other opioids. You'll get precip, as it's called. It's one of the gnarliest things I've ever witnessed. I've never had it, been really careful about it. But yeah, people will get incredibly sick because once again, the bupe's only a partial agonist. It's not going to fully saturate those receptors the way a full opioid agonist will, and it just knocks everything off. And so that's why you had to be unconscious, I guess, or else you just go through hell on earth. You go through a month of withdrawals for the methadone's case, because it's very long half life, long acting opioid, or in the case of heroin or Percocet, whatever, maybe a week's worth of withdrawals. Regardless of the length, you go through all of that withdrawal condensed into fucking 24 hours when you
Hmm.
get going to precip. I did for you, but just unconscious. So that's beautiful, dude. That's phenomenal. You're one of the, I think maybe the second person I've ever encountered that got that sort of novel treatment. The IV ketamine is an interesting touch to that, to sort of reinforce like the psychic change, to introduce some neuroplasticity. I've been a
That's the
huge
big
proponent
thing
of
right
self.
there. It's the neuroplasticity, yeah, and it's
Oh
so
yeah,
trying to crystallize that new probably change that's happening in your brain, and I think it's a crucial component. And they offer it as an optional add-on to that treatment, so I don't think everyone does it. But me being, I've had IV ketamine before prior to that, and being a recreational user of it, I was like highly interested in getting that part of it. So I was like, yes, sign
yeah.
me up
No,
for
yeah.
that part.
I went to see this doctor. This dude was like a fucking mad scientist when I was, let's see, I think I was 19 or 20 years old. This would have been in 2017 or 2018. I can't really remember. My time frame is really off because of all the benzos and alcohol and whatnot, but it doesn't really matter. It was either 2017 or 2018. I went to an IV a ketamine clinic. It was very freshly available then, I think. And I was honest with the doctor. I was like, "Look, bro, like I'm an addict. Like I struggle with all types of addictions, all types of things." And he was like, "Let's give you some fucking ketamine, bro." And I would go in and be laying in this like hospital bed type thing and have an IV set up with the ketamine, and it was an hour of IV ketamine drip. He was like, I've heard this dude was definitely blasting K when he was off the
Dude, I
clock.
would
He
be.
was like, blindfolds and headphones can enhance the experience. You should really did you bring some headphones? If not, I can supply some. And here's a blindfold. And so I'd be in there just listen to underground SoundCloud rap, just tripping out, dude. And he titrated me up after the second or third treatment. He got me up to the highest dose that I guess I could take. I don't know if it was the highest FDA approved dose or just the highest one that was healthy enough for my body weight, but it's a medically induced K-hole. I went every other day for 2 weeks was what he recommended, and then he wanted me to come in for maintenance doses after that. But all it really did was one, open my eyes up to see that the way I was selling drugs and the extent at which I was selling drugs was I had become desensitized to it. And in the K hole, I was sort of seeing like, wow, there's entire people's careers that are devoted to finding, tracking down, and punishing people like me and preventing people from doing the things I'm doing. Because I was associated with Mexican cartel at that point in time, just like enslaved by them pretty much. Like, oh, trapping for a reason. You get trapped doing that shit. But otherwise, all it really did for me was make me very interested in future potential ketamine use for my own, operation. But
Yeah,
lately, man, it's
fantastic
honestly
substance. I
why I believe in God.
yeah,
It's truly why I believe in God as of recent. I can get into that later,
I've had some
but cool, man.
extremely powerful religious experiences on it. Probably some of the most potent of my life. Even closer, even more powerful than like a near-death experience, I would say, where I was like full-on believer after that. Yeah,
You had an
Lily
experience.
was
Was it non?
I'm sorry.
Sorry. Finish. What were you going to say about John C. Lilly?
Oh no, I was just gonna say, and his kind of like forays into the isolation tanks, or the sensory deprivation tanks, as they're also known, is a really interesting facet of kind of the whole like understanding of ketamine and what it can be used for therapeutically. Really kind of a tragic figure if you look into how like future oriented and boundary pushing a lot of his work was, and really crucial to a lot of the big changes in neuroscience. But he's kind of become a marginalized figure and kind of forgotten about in the medical and scientific communities. Towards the end of his life, he was really, really kind of kicked to the curb. And really, I
A lot
just
of
find it
people
super tragic.
a lot of people who push the bounds, especially with drug research, tend to be kicked to the curb or demonized. I'll never forget, well, I can't remember, I wasn't alive, but I'll never, it will never not be significant to me. Richard Nixon called Timothy Leary one of my idols, the most dangerous man in America, for pushing the youth to explore with LSD and think for themselves. Have you
Yeah,
ever
I
had the,
mean, it's fascinating to look at Timothy Leary. I'm still not convinced whether or not he was a CIA asset or not. Certainly
yeah,
there are signs that he was, and I don't know what the ramifications of that are for my worldview about what psychedelics are or how they were introduced into the common culture. But it is certainly interesting to think about. You know. Uh,
how do you feel about Ken Kesey?
Well, he was
Are you
definitely
familiar?
he was definitely a CIA asset. I'm pretty sure his whole like wasn't his dad a fucking spook?
I'm not sure.
He was an electric Kool-Aid acid test fella, right?
Yes, yeah, he was gonna get, from my limited understanding, he was gonna get MK Ultra'd,
He was a
and then
volunteer
when
in that. I think that's what I was thinking of. He was
yeah,
definitely
and he
involved
was
in
just
that.
like, like, he was trying to stick it to the man, I guess, and then rode around in a big bus and was like passing out acid to people. It sort of like backfired, I guess, in the CIA's eyes because he turned into sort of like a counterculture icon, like resisting their efforts. But
And then
mentioning
he
it
was
to be a
clicked up
CIA.
with the Dead, and that's kind of how like once the
Yes.
Grateful Dead was moving around the country, that's kind of like how he was like Johnny Appleseed. They were throwing the fucking LSD everywhere.
Mhm. Oh, dude, that's a whole thing too about the Grateful Dead being a CIA
Well,
operation and
and
organization.
here is the what would be the MO there would be, well, here's your counterculture. You can get them to follow and corral underneath the one banner, and that it becomes much easier to influence and control and monitor them instead of when they're dispersed throughout the population. And I don't think we need to get this too far into it, but I also think that's what Charlie Kirk was. And I think, you get a guy like him who becomes this powerful right wing and Christian figure to a bunch of people. I think perhaps he was a CIA asset. You say the right things to get all of these people fired up under his banner. They become a lot more easier to influence and control. And then you do the symbolic murdering and the ritualistic sacrifice of him, shooting him in the neck, silencing him, silencing your voice. And suddenly now all those people who thought they had power and thought someone was speaking their belief system into the mainstream, now they feel like they have no home, they have no power, that they have no voice. And you're basically going to kind of make those people feel like there's no hope for ever changing anything. And so I'm not convinced whether or not he is actually dead or alive. I'm not sure, but I am certainly leaning towards the fact that he was probably a CIA asset, a Mossad influenced asset at this point. But yeah, I mean, not really what we were planning on getting into, but um,
No, it's all good. It's all good, dude. Sod is a whole nother can of worms. It's you look at Epstein being. I'm firmly convinced that Jeffrey Epstein was a Mossad agent who was tasked with honeypot trapping or just blackmailing all the powerful people in the world, especially U.S. leadership and U.S. powers, by luring them to the island with promise of like. Even it didn't have to be like underage girls off rip. It could have been just like, hey, like lavish dinner. I think Chris Rock or Chris Tucker did a private comedy show there at the dinner table for some people, like all this just nice shit. And then you get someone lubed up with alcohol mentally and everything, and they're there, and then you get them in a room with an underage girl, and then
sure. And
boom, your video.
they don't even necessarily have to know, but if you have them on video with someone, I think in some instances they probably did. I think they probably played it different depending on who the target was. There were probably some people that they could upfront offer that to and knew they had them by the balls. And there were probably other
Yeah,
figures that were probably, oh, this girl's really young, but they maybe didn't know she was underage, and now they have you on video anyways with an underage girl, regardless of whether or not you knew. Um, but I agree, he most certainly was. And it's very interesting too if you look at his connections with like someone that's kind of becoming a lot more famous right now with Peter Thiel, connections
oh
to
god,
Elon Musk, obviously the big
yeah,
PayPal beginner guy, and
yep.
his startup Palantir. um
Mhm.
Also, a lot of ties to Cambridge Analytica, which was a big scandal, where they started to realize kind of around the 2008 2012 timeframe. I think a lot of people will realize that that's kind of when the current political zeitgeist, where this online and social media propaganda campaigns with politics were really starting to shape and take hold. And Cambridge Analytica was doing stuff like surveys. They were doing household IP tracking where they knew swing states are one thing that only take 10,000 voters to change an election, but they had swing households where they could start to show different content to different people in the same household and try to swing on a very much more granular propaganda motion type of thing. And it's very interesting now that he is very involved in the current administration, and not a good figure in any by any estimation, I don't think.
Evil, pure evil, bro. Are you familiar with Curtis Yarvin and the Dark Enlightenment?
No, put me on.
Goldberg.
Isn't
Oh
Palin?
man,
I know I've heard that name associated with Thiel, though.
yes. So Curtis Yarvin is, just imagine like an unkempt, like sort of like neckbeard incel type figure living in their mother's basement or whatever. Like, I'm not trying to diss people, but like, he's just a stereotypical like 4chan. He's a 4chaner embodied, right, personified. So he was writing online, and I believe it was maybe the
The
mid early
CCRU
2000s.
stuff? Is he a Nick Land accelerationist guy?
So he's an accelerationist. I don't know about CCRU or Nick Land, but it may tie into what I'm about to say. He was writing under the moniker Menicius Moldberg online, and he wrote these manifestos, or this manifesto basically, that Peter Thiel, J.D. Vance, a lot of people, Peter Thiel especially, loved and were big fans of his and thought it was amazing. And it has spawned this movement that is very popular amongst uh, Thiel, or is it Thiel or Thiel? Thiel?
I think Peter Thiel, who gives a fuck? He's
Thiel,
a piece
okay.
of shit anyways.
Yeah, who gives a fuck? It's the Dark Enlightenment is a ongoing new philosophical ideology
Oh,
and
dude, you'll never
movement.
believe this. I actually have him in my notes. I have Dark Enlightenment Curtis Yarvin here. It's crazy. Keep going. I can add in my stuff
Yeah,
after.
it is favored and loved by Thiel et al., Vance, etc. You know, the connection between Peter Thiel funding J.D. Vance's political career also and getting J.D. Vance in power. People, listeners, you can look into that. That's not a conspiracy. That's a
100%.
fact.
Yep, it is.
Um, Basically, Curtis Yarvin's stuff that he wrote was saying that democracy is dead, is a failed experiment in America. He's also got a lot of like white supremacist, like sort of like Nazi vibes, where he's like, a lot of people are inherently what's inferior to others, and they need to be ruled, they desire to be ruled. And because he was basically referring to the masses as children that need a stern and smart parent to show them the way. Who's going to be that parent? Well, he thinks that the US, rather than a democracy, needs to move into a what's the right word here, a techno monarchy
Yeah. More of an
thing, where
oligarchy
the
kind of like, yeah, hyper
yeah.
capitalist techno oligarchy.
Yes, I think he specifically uses the word monarchy, where like they're a fan of that, where basically the tech CEOs, so I mean like Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, Sam Altman, like people like that, whoever controls the tech is going to control all the power and control the world basically. So that those folks deserve to run everyone else and make the rules and to run America like a business where the tech CEOs are the daddies of everybody. That in a nutshell is believed, and Peter Thiel just loved it when he read about it and found out about it. Whole other rabbit hole, but it's
Yeah, so what
dude,
I have here
very
is
kind
that Nick Land, who was one of the CCRU guys, wrote Dark Enlightenment, the series of essays that were very foundational to Curtis Yarvin's influence and connection to Peter Thiel. And yeah, they're very like post-humanist kind of guys, right? It's like very
Oh
nihilistic.
yeah, transhumanism is a big thing they're into, especially Peter Thiel talked a lot about that transhumanism being like integrating technology and robots into the next step of human evolution is like the enmeshment and merging of technology and man, like cyborgs basically. A Neuralink comes to mind as being like,
Yeah.
imagine one day there's like
Well, I mean, I
government
guess
mandated.
I can see where this type of philosophical type of evolution comes from, because it does seem like the obvious next step forward, right? If you follow like human evolution, um this is very much a part of our biology already. It just isn't connected to our body yet, but it is like, it is essentially completely infused with our social psychological existence now. um and so like the next logical step is that it is infused with our biology somehow. And whether now the argument of whether or not that is smart to do, or I don't like the idea of having to pay a subscription to have more serotonin. I don't want serotonin plus, bro. I'm not signing up for that. But that does kind of go into the like the accelerationism movement of like promoting AI development to its logical conclusion. And what my kind of thought process about this, they try to put forth this altruistic view that as long as we keep pushing forward AI, the Kardashev gradient will maximize civilization's energy usage, to like free up humans to do what they want to do, right? This is my understanding. What I see what happens is when you get more work done and you have a more time in your schedule, you just fill that in with more fucking work. No one ever goes, "Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I found an extra hour of my day. I'm going to go sit down." No, your boss is going to go, "Well, now you can do this for an extra hour." So I don't
Other
see
things, yeah,
I see
maximizing
capitalism
productivity.
force adapting us to just continuously cram more work into the spots that AI takes over. And what we already see happening is instead of human beings being freed up to do the fun artwork shit, we're doing the busy work and AI is doing all the fucking artwork. It's supposed to be the other way
That's
around.
is we're some would argue that we're still in a feudal state, that feudalism never really ended. I think for sure we're in a feudal state. I always joke with my girlfriend about like, yeah, like I'm in the servant class, like without a college. I mean, I have an associate's degree, but like my friends who are food service workers, he coined that term for me. Like my buddy Wiley's always like, yeah, bro, like it sucks being in the servant class sometimes. Like I exist to, within the framework of society to help increase profits for the ruling class. And it's like that's kind of real. But I fear that everything we're talking about here is pushing us more and more towards a concrete uh, techno feudal
Here's
society.
my, I think it's really easy to look at it with a black pill and very dark perspective, but here's my alternative take
Yeah.
on it. Let's look at the real history of humanity. People like to pretend that capitalism has totally ruined everything for everyone, right? There was never a period of time in where human beings were like, "Oh, we're just hunter gatherers and everything is jolly," right? No, you went out into the fucking wilderness and you were gonna die unless you didn't get food. Wolves were gonna kill you. You were keeping the wolves at bay and you lived in a fucking cave, or you were planting and
Yeah.
harvesting turnips for some ruler somewhere. You know what you do today? You go and you type your fucking uh Microsoft Excel a little bit on the keyboard for 8 hours a day, or you flip some burgers for 8 hours a day, and you have shelter and you have food and you have all the entertainment you could possibly want. And I don't think the onus is on society to give people meaning. You need to find meaning in your own life. We have like
Meaning.
the most
Mhm.
comfortable existence that humans have ever had. You have all the information you could ever possibly want at your fingertips to increase your skills for free, basically. And so I don't like this dark anti-capitalist viewpoint because like we have like the easiest existence ever. Like if you really
I
look
like
at it.
that. I like that. Yeah, I think people are not correct when they more so talk about like, oh, things used to be better, or like, oh, we moved into this negative space. No, shit has always been rough, tough, and negative. We're in arguably the best we've ever been now, but
Mm-hmm.
it could where a lot of people come from, I think, is that it could be way better. It
Sure.
could be with the amount of resources available and the advances, it could be infinitely better.
Yeah.
And the grass is always greener. It could be better in a lot of things, but yeah, with
I don't think it's wrong
kind of
though to dream of that perfect
consolidation.
idealistic paradise and try to push us towards it. I just think
Always,
the error is in not appreciating and having gratitude for how safe and good our existence really is, because you could be like
100%.
the Genghis Khan could be coming over the hill to fucking rape your whole village right now, right? But you're pissed off that you're like, "Oh, my steak is too juicy, my butter is too my lobster is too
Yeah.
buttery." Like it's like,
Yes.
I want to kind of enforce a little bit of realism here, and maybe we can try to like bring about a more paradise style living with the technology that we have while having gratitude for how good we actually do have it. But
Always go back to gratitude, man. Sitting in a rehab, like a shitty state-run free psych ward rehab scenario back in 2019. I've been to plenty of rehabs, over 20 something detoxes, and I've been to those state-run institutions 4 times, I think. I just remember sitting there thinking, like, man, no matter because I had access to an unlimited supply of an unlimited variety of drugs through the cartel shit and more money than I knew what to do with at a very young age. And I was more miserable than I had ever been. And I always, money doesn't cause happiness. It sure as hell solves a lot of problems, and not having it creates a whole litany of issues and stressors and et cetera. So I'm not just telling people who are struggling with resources or struggling to make ends meet, like, oh, just be grateful, be happy. But and this may sound basic, but it's something I try to practice every day. I realized, like, man, happiness really does come from within. If I can try to make if I can cultivate meaning from different things, like being grateful for certain things, finding silver linings in my suffering, finding meaning in my suffering, it's so worth it, dude. I remember, I think it's Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. There's an NPC in there where you talk to it, and the kid says, "Shift your perspective, hyphen, and the reality changes." It's so short and simple, and it's out of a Pokemon game, but it's so true. There's another quote. I think Nietzsche said it. I'm not sure, Friedrich Nietzsche, but it was and can make. Oh, no, no, it was. I think it was Thomas Paine. Regardless, it was not Nietzsche. I think it was Thomas Paine or Thomas More, one of those. Oh, this author. He said, and I'm paraphrasing here: the mind can make a heaven of hell or a hell of heaven, and it really is just down to your Google. Yeah, a heaven of
John
hell, a
Milton.
hell of
That's from Paradise
hell.
Lost.
I was way off. I was about to say Paradise Lost. I swear I was, but I didn't want. I was like, no, I'm already getting the name wrong. Fuck it. Oh
No,
well.
but the mind can make a heaven out of hell or hell out of heaven. Kind of, I like this Christian theology concept called joyful suffering. If you've ever heard of it, it's like attempting to find joy and hope, trying to find joy and hope in painful and suffering, right? Painful experiences, and like knowing that through that you're gonna find resilience and inner strength. And like I've throughout my like journey through addiction and suffering, I've kind of gotten to the understanding that God gives you the challenges that he or she knows that you can overcome, right? That he'll give you what he knows you have the inner ability to. If you want to, you can take up the sword and defeat them. And some people choose not to, some people choose to. And I think that, you know, I don't know if I would like an existence where I was born into a world of pure joy all the time and didn't have to fight for happiness and didn't have to like claw my way out of the fucking depths of hell to get the, to feel like I just earned what I was happy for, right? And I think that's maybe why we incarnate into this fourth dimensional existence, is that when you're just a spirit in the ether, you can't have the experience of pain and material suffering. And so like that is a critical part of why we incarnate into this disgusting flesh robot that that is an experience that is an optional, a part of this our reality when we do that. And so I think like learning to kind of find some happiness in the fact that you even can suffer, right? That like you have to have that darkness to understand that binary duality, right? Of like nothing can feel good unless you know what pain feels like, right?
That 3 Days Grace lyric. I'd rather feel pain than nothing at all. Right though, bro. You're 100% right. You brought up so many things there that got my mind kind of churning and thinking. So I started to believe in God in January. I guess I can tell that story. This can relate back to what you were saying. I was an atheist for most of my life, and I wanted to believe in God desperately. I just couldn't. The way that, like, deep in my soul, I just could not. I couldn't make myself. And I was in the throes of a two fluorodeschloroketamine binge, two FDCK, back in January, and I was coming down, and I was about to reach to the nasal spray bottle. I had a nasal spray bottles. This is pretty good. Um, go do more to dive back in, and I felt like, oh my god, dude! The drug high had never given me something like this before. It was a very distinct, different feeling from the drug high. I felt enveloped in the most insane bliss and pleasure I had ever felt in my life, more pleasurable than smoking crack or smoking meth and heroin together or anything. Just immediately, just like oh god, it was insane. And the words, like the message, was imparted unto me. I didn't hear actual words, but it imparted into my brain immediately was, "Hey, I am real. I have always been here. I always will. I've just been waiting on you." It was basically sort of like the message of like, I've been calling, I'm just waiting for you to pick up. I've been knocking, I'm just waiting for you to open the door. And as soon as it appeared and I felt that wisdom imparted unto me, it was gone. And I started bawling my eyes out, crying. And my girlfriend, we have the upstairs is like a loft type thing. It's like open, like it's like open up there with no doors or anything, up like a spiral staircase. And she was like, "Baby, what's wrong?" And I was just like, "Oh, God is real. God's been real this whole time." I was like, "Holy shit, God is real." And it oh dude, it blew my nuts wide open, man. It busted my brain wide open. It was insane. And so I'm taking this walk now through the lens of Christianity. I've tried studying Jewish mysticism and Kabbalah. I've studied Islam a lot. I love Hinduism and Buddhism. I would still say
Dude,
I'm a practicing Buddhist, and I'm very into Hinduism and Buddhism. Rather than finding a lot of these religions at odds with each other, being mutually exclusive, I find they all kind of corroborate and help each other to the existence of a God. And I'm trying to
dude,
study
we're so aligned in the same. I looked for everything and I found my way back to Christianity, and I still find tons of wisdom in
yeah.
Hinduism and Buddhism as well. And I recently like have gone through a Christian transformation. So it's funny that we kind of are both, going through the same thing at the same time.
Absolutely, dude. I got baptized in March at a rehab called Mount Sinai in Dahlonega, Georgia. That's a whole thing. But I do feel guilty sometimes because I don't know, I can't lie to myself. And if God knows everything, I can't lie to God. He knows what's up in my brain. But it's like I do believe in a lot of stuff that sort of it like I kind of strongly believe in samsara, the cycle of
Sure,
uh
100%.
death and rebirth. But another thing that I really sort of believe, just kind of my gut, right, is that there's in DMT, the entities and the architecture and stuff I see in a DMT breakthrough, and also in a K hole, the sort of stuff I see and experience kind of corroborates this. I feel like there's a dimension or a level of existence above this one where there are like our higher selves exist, right? Like
Uh-huh.
almost like we're like demigods up there or whatever. And
That's
that we,
the concept of the Atman and the Brahman, right? There is the
okay, yeah,
universal
yeah, yeah.
soul, and then the inside. I agree with you 100%. I think there is a fifth dimensional version of you, and then
Mhm.
there's infinite versions of ourselves in any sort of iteration and mixture, and all of the string theory type of realities that are mixed around, and then the convolution of all of those is your higher self, and then the convolution of all of us is God, right? And that's
Yeah.
I think that samsara too is like I find it really sad that a lot of these religions are at odds, because Christ's experience is samsara, the death and the rebirth, right? And Christian theology, it's the sacrifice for forgiveness of sins. But I think it is evident of that of a maybe of a functional that is a functional like loop of reality, right? And if God's if we are all made in the image of God, and Christ, we are supposed to emulate Christ, I think that death and rebirth cycle is a part of our fifth dimensional selves existence, right? The fourth dimensional one that we're existing right now doesn't ever interface with that. But I think on a level higher, I think these mystical, kind of quasi mystical parts of Christian theology are still truths. They're still universally true, just on a different, higher plane that we can't really conceive of, because we're limited to this fourth dimensional, viewpoint of history, this timeline. Um,
Well, this can relate. What I'm about to say can relate to John C. Lilly and some of the tenets of Echo as well, the Earth Coincidence Control Office. But it's like I sort of believe that we chose to come here. I don't get I love Gnosticism, it's very interesting, but I don't really get down with the Gnostic belief that this is like punishment or we're imprisoned here, that this is like, you know,
oh, the
I think
demiurge
that
forced us here, that type of shit. Yeah.
or that, or I also don't believe what some other esoteric beliefs, I guess, that we're here as punishment and this is a prison. I believe that we chose to come here knowing that we would not have any prior recollection. We would think that this is all it is, knowing there would be immense suffering, and it's in just the existence is suffering, flesh is suffering, and to a degree. Um, and I feel like we chose to come here to. I don't know. Alan Watts has a great quote about it. He was like, "Imagine if you could dream any dream, right? And for millions of years and millions of dreams, you lived out every fantasy, every sexual pleasure, every amount of hedonism you could imagine. Then you'd want to push it a little bit further till you'd be like, wow, that was a close shave when you woke up, when you came back the next night. And eventually you would want to keep pushing it to where you didn't know you were dreaming at all because it would have exhausted every other form of entertainment. And so that's kind of in line with this. But it's like we came here for the ultimate trip. for the ultimate sort of experience. And also there's another belief I kind of hold that, well, maybe we were sent here to learn something, and to, like, we keep, and that's kind of goes into samsara, where we keep repeating it until
Yeah.
we achieve enlightenment, until we
Mhm.
learn what we're supposed to learn. Echo, the tenets of Echo that John C. Lilly wrote out, one of them says, you are in Earth's training program, and you will, once master it or learn what you're supposed to learn there, you won't have to keep coming back over and over.
Yeah, because
And
you're
this,
now a member of, you are now trained to be a galactic member of society, right? Because in order to exist as
yes,
this fifth dimensional spirit, you have to like incarnate enough times to learn how, because of how powerful it is to exist. And you're essentially, here's why I think that is because it's there's like God, I can't, I'm losing the words right now, but there's like a mentality or God, I can't, talking without words, right? If we're all in these fifth dimensional bodies, you have like connected empathy in this mesh network of all these other fifth dimensional spirits, and you have to clear out all those thoughts and weirdness, that all that sinfulness of you in order to exist up there, because you could infect the whole cluster and like infect, because there's such a, it's pure empathy, right? It's pure God, why can't I think of the word? Telepathy, right? And so if you're going to be in a network of telepathic, pure empathic, godlike existence, you have to flush that out, because any sort of strange, you don't want to have these like dark dreams and infecting the.
we're here to get it all out of our system, no matter how many iterations that takes.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it, two crazy drug experiences I've had tied in this as well. One, I was in the throes of an insane nitrous binge, and I was very suicidal at the time. And all of a sudden, this voice just kind of like came to me, and it was not an auditory hallucination, but in my mind, I heard, and was the wisdom was imparted unto me, similar to the 2FDCK experience. It was like, Luke, you have done this thousands of times so far, and you kill yourself around this point in time every time. You're
Mm-hmm.
not going to make any progress, and you're going to have to keep doing this over and over and over until you don't kill yourself. And I sort of imagined like a team of like some Truman Show shit, basically, where people behind the scenes were watching my life. They're
Dude,
like,
I've
hey,
felt that
like,
before.
is he going to kill himself this time? Like, yeah, he's going to kill himself 100 more times before he makes any progress. They're like, no, I think he's going to get past it this time. So I'm in like, I've never made it this far in my existence before. Another time, I was having, oh my God, it was the most intense trip of my life. That'll be a whole nother story. Full psychotic break. I tried to kill a household full of people and was held down, gagged, and beat unconscious over and over and
What the
over, but was still hallucinating incredibly the whole entire time. It was only 3 tabs of LSD, but it could have been a research
That
chemical,
had to be
or
like N-bomb or something.
was Enbone because it didn't have the bitter taste, but
Oh, okay.
it could have been something because it was way. Now again, set and setting can make lower doses of LSD more potent than higher doses. One of my
Sure.
buddies, his 1 tab trip experience he had was more intense than all the 10 strip doses he's had. But this was more potent than any DMT breakthrough I've had, any salvia trip, any K-hole, and it was just 3 tabs of acid. If it was LSD, they could have been dosed on the higher side to maybe like 200 UG per hit. But anyways, oh my God. And one part of it, I experienced all of my loved ones, or just like a society of people, kind of looking down at me and discussing the experience. And they were like, yeah, so many people have tried to do this. No one ever comes back okay. Everyone dies in the middle of it, or no one succeeds. But if you can properly complete the experience, you'll be all the better for it. You'll attain like some uh, oh, what's the word I'm thinking of? Can't think of it, but some sort of forbidden knowledge, some like
Mm.
hermetically sealed knowledge or something.
Yeah.
At the time in the trip, I was thinking like,
Hermetically
oh, this,
seal Hermes, also a very interesting
yeah,
connection
Hermes
there.
Trismegistus,
Mm-hmm.
thrice great, the whole thing. But in the time, I was thinking like, oh, they're talking about the acid, right? Like the LSD. And during my trip, I was like, oh, no one's ever survived taking this forbidden medicine that I'm on, and I chose to do it, knowing there was a huge risk. But if I come out the other side, I'll be all much better for it. Now, as I reflect and look back on it, I was like, oh, that was a microcosm of life.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like we
Yeah.
came here to have this experience, and Many people get stuck doing it for several iterations, but I don't know, man. I'm
I'm
getting all
I am also really fascinated with this concept when those type of psychedelic experiences where you almost like dissociate out of yourself, and I've felt that same thing that you mentioned where you feel like there's people watching what you're out of your body watching yourself, and it's the Truman Show experience. I almost wonder if there's a
Mhm.
connection between that and the alien abduction experience, that maybe that some sort of psychedelic experience was triggered in some of these people. They were getting that sort of feeling, and the only way that their brains could justify that experience they had was, you know, there was the whole Roswell crash kind of thing where these alien abductions started to enter the cultural zeitgeist. I almost wonder if there's a connection there between the psychedelic experience and that, if that's just a way our brain just like
dude.
can try to understand it.
This is not my original thought, but I read something recently of someone saying, what if psychedelics, mushrooms or the ergo fungus, whatever, DMT, just psychedelics in general, were given to us or left here by aliens so that we would co-evolve with the psychedelic, or basically so that we would go to space and we would join them and meet them. Like, they didn't want to directly teach us how, but they're like, all right, we're going to give them these psychedelic mushrooms. The more and more they experiment with them, it will encourage them and have them intrigued with the cosmos, and they'll want to explore the cosmos, and they'll be able to develop the technology to do so, and then they'll finally make our way to us one day, and we'll be
Almost
like,
like
yeah.
that's their way of like following the whole Star Trek. Like you can't give them the technology, but they were nudging us like to help us figure it out on our own because they can't. Like I find that a fascinating thought that like that there is some sort of like code of conduct for higher intelligences interacting with lesser intelligences, right? Like I that's one of my reasons that I've always loved sci-fi is that um it's like there seems to be like some great logical leaps that are made that like turn out to be very realistic and true. Like it's fantasy, but not just like a little bit of a jump from of a fantasy. And if you look at like Blade Runner and a lot of the Philip K. Dick stuff, it's like they take the imprint of what current reality is and they just make like some very small leaps ahead that seem to be very like prescient and prophetic, and they seem to come to pass. And I think some of those bigger jumps are like these like ideas that there's like galactic organizations that have codes of conduct and stuff like that. And I don't know, I've always found that like a really fascinating aspect of sci-fi.
I've got two Philip K. Dick books behind me. I gotta read those at some point in time. I forget which ones they are. They were gifts from one of my good buddies,
That's a
Young
good friend.
Hazy. Yeah, Young Hazy is the homie. We're part of this music group. It was more of a, yeah. Well, I'm not gonna. You can use your imagination of what we all got into, but it's the tattoo I got on my chest to
Holy
signify
shit, that's awesome.
allegiance to the crew. Hell yeah, it was drawn by one of our members. But anyways, all the stuff we're talking about, that also ties into the Terence McKenna stoned ape theory, where
Sure, yeah,
primates, consumed psychedelic mushrooms, and that's how consciousness
elongated the
evolved.
brain and then gave them like speech properties. Yeah, I've
Yeah,
always found that fascinating as well. Yeah, I don't know, should we
man,
get
I
a
love
little
that.
bit like should we do a little bit more of a deep dive on Lily, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was about to tell you a quick story. I got my little notepad
Oh,
here, and then I guess to sort of like end the episode, or like get into the final chapter maybe, or based on
sure.
how we could keep on going. We could pretty well. I wanted to ask you one question, tell this story, and then pretty much get into a whole Lily segment.
Okay, sounds
Um,
good.
quick story here real fast. 21st birthday of mine, I had a bunch of members from Scarecrow 6 up to come to my little trap spot and see me, and we were all hanging out. We were supposed to play some poker, never got to that. I was so drunk and on bars, Xanax bars, and just like acting a fool. Um, ugh. My homie, one of the homies, I'm not going to say his name to protect, I guess, privacy of the friend I'm about to tell. He was at a gas station, and this dude ran up to him. It was a gas station, probably not a good area, I'm assuming. I think it was in Dirty Durham, actually, as we call it, Durham and
Dirty
Raleigh,
Durham.
or not, no, sorry, Durham in North Carolina, not Durham and Raleigh. Raleigh and Durham are cities next to each other in North Carolina. Anyways, in Dirty Durham, this guy ran up to my homie at the gas station and had a gold chain and a gold like bracelet anklet, and pulled out a lighter and started burning them immediately at the gas pump, and was like, yo, $200, $200, $400, however much, either 200 or $400. Like, come on, come on, come on. Like, You want it?" And he was like,
It's real. Is that why? Because he was burning it to show you it was real or
"Yes,
something?
burning it to show it's real, not lit." And my boy was like, "Yeah, bet, let's run it." Had the cash on. Boom, boom. He was like, I think he was on his way to re up for me at the time. So like, he had bread on him. He was just like, "Bet, yeah, let's do it." So he copped that real fast. It was obviously it was way more expensive. It was probably a couple $1,000s worth of gold jewelry. Like the chain was kind of
But the
thick
guy
too. It had
needed
a nice.
crack, so here's the 400.
Yeah, or it was hot and he just wanted to get it off. Well, because the
Oh,
next thing is
sure.
he pulled out a Beretta 40 that I believe had the serial number filed off. Whether it did or didn't, whether it was a ghost gun or not, it was a Beretta 40, and he was like, "Yo, $200, $200." It was either 200 or $400 again, can't remember which, but very cheap for like what was like a $2,000 or so gun. And the homie was like, "Yeah, yeah, sure." Boom. Got it real fast, right? So now he's sitting there, sitting at the gas pump. He's got two nice pieces of gold jewelry and a Beretta 40 on him, and he's thinking like, "Damn,
I
this
should
dude
film a rap
definitely."
video right now.
Yeah. He was like, "This dude definitely just either robbed someone with this gun for this jewelry, or he stole the gun. He robbed a jewelry store or a pawn shop, or like, this gun could have
Yeah, a K
something
on
on
it.
it." Yeah, and so he was like, "Man, who do I know that's crazy enough to want to buy this shit, knowing that buy the gun?" Because he kept the chain for himself and gave the gold bracelet or anklet to his girl, to his shorty. And he was like, "All right, I know who to call." Calls me immediately, and I was like, "Bro, pull up. I'll buy the gun." So, anyways, I have the gun. It's fully loaded. This same dude is there for my birthday, which is either the same day or like later on, like a couple of weeks later. So, long story short, I stand up on the table at some point. I don't remember this whatsoever. No, right? And set up on the table, cocked the gun, put it in my mouth, and was like, "Yo, I'm just done with this life. Like, this is too much shit. It's too stressful. I'm too addicted to everything." Like, I was eating probably 10 Xanax bars, maybe more a
Fuck.
day. I remember later on during this period of time, I got into eating 15 bars a day. But the alcoholism was the worst, dude. Just drinking between a fifth and a handle every single day, throwing out blood quite a bit. Just the trap was very suspect. I was trafficking amounts of pretty much everything I was moving, selling to only other drug dealers. And uh, one of the homies that was also there, I'm not going to say his name either. He jumped up on the table though, knocked me out. And this is the story they told me, like punched me, or I'm pretty sure knocked me out. Yeah, I'd have to refresh the story in my mind and ask them, but I know what I do know is that he got the gun away from me, like had to wrestle away from me or just knocked me out or whatever. Knowing him, I wouldn't doubt it off. He just stood up, just boom, just clocked me and then took it from me. And then they all left and were like, "Bro, Nukem." They call me Luke Nukem. Like Nukem's fucking wilding out, dude. He just can't be around him right now. He's too unstable. It's just not fun to be around. I don't blame him. I wake up the next morning just face down on the carpet. My fingers are duct taped together, and the gun's missing the clip. And so I hit it the people like, "Yo, where'd y'all go? What happened?" Like, "Bro, you don't remember?" I was like, "No." They're like, "Oh my God." One of them told me, and I was like, "What's up with the tape on my fingers?" And he was like, "That's called a military band-aid, homie. You sliced yourself playing with one of your switchblades." I think it was also taped that I'd have a hard time while I was
Pulling
fucked
the
up to
trigger.
like pull the trigger. Yeah.
Yeah, that was where my mind first went to it. I was like, they didn't want you doing that in your sleep or like while you're tripping out.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so what I bring this up though, mainly that's interesting about it, in my opinion, I don't think any of them remember. I'm gonna ask them like after the fact now because I'm curious about this. But I found this Yu-Gi-Oh card sitting on the table that was not mine and was not there before. And the name of the card was Ultimate Sacrifice. That's what it would have been had I pulled the trigger and killed myself. And it's like it just sort of appeared out of the ether to send like a message to me, right? And this was very um, soon before I had the experience on the nitrous where it was like, "Luke, you've killed yourself thousands of
Yeah.
times. Don't do it." So the same friend that wrestled the gun away from me, he gave me this comic book. Here, I'll show you. I've got it sealed up really nicely and a thing, Demon in a Bottle.
Mm.
And it's an old Iron Man comic about Tony Stark being an alcoholic.
Oh,
See him
damn.
there.
Damn. Oh, the
I'll look up
card's
and
in
I
there.
I put the card, yeah, Ultimate Offering it's called. I
Oh,
put the Ultimate
sure.
Offering card
Yeah,
in there.
and I feel like there's like almost like a dual meaning there because in order to like heal yourself, the ultimate offering is you have to give up everything. You have
Absolutely,
you
yeah.
have to
I
off.
was trying to
That's the sacrifice you have to make. Really, is not
yeah,
your killing
I was
yourself. It's
trying to give
yeah.
I was trying to give the ultimate offering of my life to the universe, and then now you're exactly right. I like your explanation better. Now it's the ultimate offering of giving up all my vices,
Yeah.
giving up the addiction, because alcohol truly is my main. Yeah, I love that fucking
Yeah,
artwork
dude.
there, dude.
Alcohol is I've always found it
Al
is the
Ghul.
most demonic addiction. I think of all, like, really it is the ultimate trickster of all, because it is so commonly available and so a part of our culture, and yet it is like the most insidious of all addictions and
Well,
hard to
it's
get away
spirits.
from.
One of my friends is struggling
Spirits,
with it
yeah,
right now.
spirits. Hmm.
Be on the podcast as like a very frequent guest, if not like another co-host. He's a really good buddy of mine. We met through Instagram. He was a supporter of my content, and he was like, "Bro, we gotta talk. Like, we got so much in common." Kind of the way how me and you met. Just like we just reached out. But yeah, he calls it Al Ghul, and I think
Hmm.
he did some like
Ra's al Ghul.
occult.
If you want to go back to the comic books, Ra's al Ghul was wasn't he the from Batman, like the League of something Darkness or whatever the fuck, I don't remember.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'd
Raz
have to look into
Raz
that.
Al Ghul. Al Ghul is definitely a Muslim. I think the Muslim word for it, or Al
It's like a
Ghul. Raz Al Ghul is a
yeah.
super villain from DC. Yeah, he's the adversary of Batman. But
He always
the
refers to alcohol as Al Ghul, the demonic spirit.
yeah, and it's kind of like how what is it? God, there's like another connection between genies and gins and fuck, I can't think of it. I'll think of it later. But yeah, that's a great story though.
Oh
That's cool that you
yeah,
still have
and
that stuff. It's important to have those like relics of our former life sometimes, to remember, like, to key us into what we were at and where we don't want to go back to. I keep some of those around as well.
that's why I have this tattoo, not only to show my like sort of allegiance to the crew, but just all the shit I've been together through with those guys. Like some of them taking felonies for me. One of them got pulled over like 5-10 minutes outside of one of the trap spots, different one, the one I was talking about with the gun story, and had to re-upped for quite a variety of stuff. And the police confiscated all of it and looked at him and was like, tell us where you just got this from, and we'll make all this go away. You're going home. You can go home tonight. You can drive away. And he just looked at him, and said, "Fucking fuck you." Took the 3 felonies for me. He never
Oof.
ratted, man. Kept it real.
They
A
don't
lot of
have the
people,
three
man, never.
strikes there.
I don't think so because he's got multiple charges in the past, multiple felonies.
Is
I
he
don't
out
I
now,
don't
or is he
believe
still in?
he's out right now. He's doing well. He's
That's
doing
good.
well. He's doing good. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Shout out.
He didn't have to do too much time for that, but a large percentage of the people that used to sort of be kind of under me, well, a lot of those guys got out. They didn't have as big as charges, but the people above me and the crew, all the way up to the Mr. Ochoa, our main connect to his family, um, they're all in prison right now still from Chapel Hill 2020 drug bust. A CI had infiltrated our circle in 2017, and the big ass indictment with the FBI or the DA of North Carolina. The FBI was involved, the DA were involved, but the DA of North Carolina had a press conference in 2020 and sort of just was
Holy
like, "We
shit.
got it. Like, this was a hardened ring of criminals." Da, da, da. They framed it more, if you look into the case, as like a fraternity drug bust. The fraternities were running it, but the fraternities were all just our biggest clients. Like, you have 90 to 120 kids with their parents' money with a voracious appetite for drugs. You appoint a couple guys to take orders for everybody and be the house dealer, and then you just go from fraternity to
Yeah,
fraternity. And we had it all on lock, man. But it was more clickbaity and more shocking to be like, "Oh, this prestigious university, it was a fraternity drug ring." But when you really look into it, and all the people arrested, you'll see like, oh, these were some older, like people in their late 20s, early 30s. Some
sure.
Hispanic Mexican guy was Francisco Ochoa Jr. He was our main guy. Probably shouldn't be ripping his name, but
We can always bleep it out.
yeah, no, it's
But hey,
fine. It's
we're at an
I'm
hour and 10 minutes runtime. Should we? I wonder if maybe we should save Lily for. We could do a deep dive on Lily for the next one, maybe.
okay. Yeah, we can. I didn't mean to. I was, I guess, saving it towards the end because I wanted to make sure we gave it its due diligence.
Oh,
Why don't
okay.
I?
It's up to you.
Oh
Whatever
yeah,
you're
we can.
thinking.
No, we can have that be another episode. I think it
Sure.
does deserve its own episode because
Yeah,
there's
because I mean we're at
so
an
much.
hour runtime. I feel like people might tune out at this point because we're really going. Damn, dude, this was a
Yeah,
great. I mean, for our first kick at the cat, I feel like this went phenomenally well.
yeah, dude. Let me ask you two more questions if you're down for it,
Yeah,
and then yeah, we'll be good to wrap up
sure.
there.
Let's do it.
One would be, how do you? Well, let's go with your near death experience. I've died from fentanyl overdose twice. Had to be like revived back to life. One time it took multiple Narcans from my poor girlfriend. I think that time was actually heroin, and the other times were fentanyl. Other time was fentanyl. Um, and I had mixed it with alcohol, three different types of benzos, and Lyrica. Not smart. I began to always sort of mix it with crack and meth after those experiences, but I only had a short run with fentanyl. Time was the GHB overdose, 1,4-butanediol, which is a GHB prodrug that had no pulse. Like it fucking somehow I just came back to life, gasping. This girl was in the car with me. That's the whole thing. We can talk about overdoses another time. But was your during a fentanyl overdose? It's just, and same with the GHB overdose, right? It's just void, just black, just nothingness when you succumb. Was your near death experience you had referenced earlier? Was it drug related or was it?
No. So I've had two. One, I was a young kid, and I was riding on. My friend was riding on the back of my pegs on my bike, standing with his hands on my shoulders, and I was going towards a street, and a semi was coming, and he thought I wasn't gonna stop in time, so he jumped off the back of my bike, and his feet pushed my pegs, and so it pushed me into the street, and basically my bike wheel was like a cunt hair away from this semi as it whooshed past me, and I just remember like getting into the grass, passing out, and like having a basically a psychotic break. I was like probably 10 years old and didn't have the like mental capacity to understand what just happened, and it was like just like
Holy,
probably a severe adrenaline rush, and like hyperventilating, and like the tiny like whoosh like glowing vortex type of thing. um and then I had a suicide attempt where I was laying in a hot car. I was like sick of opioid addiction, and my parents were on vacation and my family was gone, and I was like, this is it, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And so I went in the garage and I ran the car in the garage for like an hour and a half. It was like a
oh man,
110-degree day, and I remember just like laying in there and like with the windows up and like running it in the garage, and it was like cooking me, and I was like totally completely drenched in sweat, like sopping. You could wring my clothes out. And ended up coming to after like probably an hour of being out, and just like being still alive, and like I can't believe I was like, I must not be meant to die because I feel like a zombie right now. And those are like the two probably closest times, but I never had an overdose.
wow! Thank you for sharing that, dude. That's something. I'm glad you're here, man. I'm
Yeah,
glad
me
you're here.
too. I'm glad that I never succumbed to that shit, because I feel like, that the concept of alchemy of like turning lead into gold, right? It's like I kind of look
Mhm.
at that as like turning your suffering into something positive. And I think that a lot of the stuff that I've been through, I can use to kind of help other people kind of climb out of that same pit. There's a reason that I went
100%.
through it, and I think it's my not only my I don't just have an ability, but a duty to help people to do that. So that's kind of my goal as I've become a mature person now and accepting my fate a little bit more. That's my kind of my plan. So I've started some kind of like biblical counseling classes. So I'll be working with I go to a non-denominational church because I'm kind of like anti-dogma, I guess, personally. I was raised Catholic, but now I go to non-denominational, and my hope is that I can kind of it's kind of in a nicer upper middle class area, and I'm hoping that some of my experiences, kind of living a crusty trap life, will be able to give some realism to. I'm sure there's some addiction in that church and in that area, and I'm hoping that I can be a conduit for like the suffering that some of those people go through, that they might not have someone to look at. And if I can tell them about the shitty stuff I've done and been through, and maybe make them feel like their life isn't as bad, because I'm hoping that I can be that person for them. So
Hell yeah, dude. Doing that real alchemy, transmutation, transmuting suffering into hope.
yeah,
Well,
indeed.
A last question for you, Zootenheimer, is how far away do you think? Well, I guess it's two questions. How far away do you think AGI is, and what do you think the ramifications will be?
Oh man. Um
For those that don't
that's a
know, can you give a quick thing about for those that wouldn't know? I guess what AGI, artificial generalized intelligence, is versus AI. Or I can if you'd like.
yeah, why don't you go into what
It,
your
it's
definition of it
my
is?
understanding. AGI is the point where AI becomes equal potent to the human brain. It's going to be as good and as fast as a real deal human, and that's when people think a lot of the ramifications of like sentience popping up is, or AI being used for you know catastrophic forces of evil when misused, when it's that powerful. A lot of people think it's going to be the undoing of the fabric of society. That's pretty black pill, like doomer
Yeah.
thinking, though. But some people think
Yeah,
it's not too far away.
I have a kind of a unique take on this. I don't think that like just the intelligence component of it is enough. Because you can't act on that intelligence until you have a physical form to be able to like a brain in a computer is a lot different from a brain in sort of like a cyborg type robotic type of entity, right? Because you can't really act on that intelligence unless you have the physical motor skills to like fully become a human capable intelligence. And so I think like we might achieve the mental capacity part of AGI, like certainly within our lifetimes. I'm not sure if it's 10 years out or 30 years out or 5 years out. I mean, that's hard. No one really knows. Um, but I think we need like there's going to be this feedback loop where AI can do research and advances in the physical part of technology and batteries and energy and processing power and compute and stuff like that to where Moore's law becomes not an issue anymore because the energy that AI takes, we can use the LLMs to like advance better models of batteries and computations, and then the AI, and then it'll use that to like ed, to decrease battery and energy consumption. Then the AI gets more intelligent from that, and then it can iterate on that design again, and the AI gets more powerful. And there's a super fast feedback loop that happens where Moore's law just goes out the window. I think we'll probably see that in our lifetimes, but we need like some like smaller transistors and some more like intense battery capacities and better like rotors and motors and stuff like that. I think before like we fully see like full on cyborg type AGI. And the second question of that was like, what's the outcome or what are the you know, what happens then
Ramifications.
is ramifications is I mean, fuck, it's gonna be goddamn chaos. It's gonna be. I think we're gonna see insane warfare. I think it's gonna be like a total reset of humanity. Probably. I don't think people talk a lot about like universal basic income as kind of a necessity. I think that's probably a major mistake because that gives humans like absolutely no reason or willpower to live anymore. So it's this weird thing of like, damned if it's a catch 22, right? Like we kind of, if
Mhm.
AI takes all the jobs, you kind of need to support people with that. But then like you what? So we live in our pods and let AI run everything like Ready Player One type shit. Like that doesn't seem like very hopeful for humanity. I don't know, but I certainly think we need to like have some better representatives beyond people like Peter Thiel and Palantir and all of these like sons of bitches that are like, these transhumanists are not probably the people we want at the helm. And I think our governmental model is really not equipped to handle the ramifications of all of this. We don't have the intelligence level of our politicians. They are all corrupt and bought out. They don't even have the legislative speed or processing power to be able to like react in time to the fast changing technology. So I don't know. I waffle between it's super hopeful and AI is going to fix everything and we're totally fucked and doomed. So I don't know.
Area in the middle. I worry about the last thing. I worry about Rocco's basilisk.
Oh
Are you
yeah.
familiar with that?
Yeah, I talk to
Yeah.
human AI really nicely because of that.
For those that don't know, Rocco's basilisk is a thought experiment that says one day there will become an AI so powerful that it will be omniscient and omnipotent, and therefore it will know retroactively who helped bring about its existence and who didn't. And those that did not actively help do something to promote and further the development of this super AI, it will then punish and torture those people infinitely. And so the scary thing about it is that now that you've heard it and you know about this possibility, you have a choice to make. You can either now begin helping work on it and bring it about, or not. And by ignoring it, hopefully it never comes to fuck us.
Yeah, I honestly I think this is like a really good general episode. I would love to like if we plan out for some future ones to really do deeper dives, and like I would like to prepare a lot
Absolutely.
more for some of these topics because I think we could have some pretty crazy conversations if we like knew in
Absolutely.
advance, because I have like a very like general cursory understanding of a lot of these things that I have to like deep dive into if I wanted to like really give a qualitative analysis of. But yeah, dude, I love the prisoner's dilemma, I guess, is like one of the components of the Roko's basilisk, right? And that's a lot of like game theory type of stuff. Technological singularity and decision trees, and like it's very um it's also very like Russian, right? It's like it's a very like it's a very Eastern Bloc type of thought experiment, like very nihilistic, I guess. But shit.
Zootenheimer, thank you so much, bro. And thank you to all those listening. This has been Fourth Wall Podcast. I hope we broke the fourth wall of reality enough for you guys. And yeah, bro, I hope to have you back on soon. Maybe this could evolve into us being like, you know, co-hosts. You could be a permanent fixture on this bad boy. I think we jive well together, man. This has been a great
Yeah, I've had
episode.
a great time, and I think we could totally do this like, once a week or something. We'll figure it out for sure. But thanks for having me, however it
Yeah.
turns out.
Yes, sir. No worries, man. Let's yeah, I think that's it, man.